What comes to your mind when you hear Norway? Doesn't it appear as a faraway land in mystical Scandinavia with lots of snow and, of course, the northern lights? This sparsely populated, largely subarctic, and arid nation became rich within a short period of time. But how? What on earth happened there? Was it the discovery of oil or something entirely different? Join us in this video as we find out why Norway got so insanely rich. Economic strength. To be honest, there's no rags to riches story. The truth is that very early on, Norway became one of the world's wealthiest nations, even before oil was discovered. Sure, Norway couldn't match the prosperity of the United States or the United Kingdom, but it's long been among the wealthier and more advanced nations in the world. Don't believe us? Stick around to see for yourself. Norway had surpassed the majority of the nations of Southern and Eastern Europe by the start of World War II. Wealth and success have largely always been correlated with an abundance of fertile land and a hospitable environment. Not only did Norway have none of that, it was almost like the odds were against them. So what changed? We're not the only ones surprised how they managed to defeat all these odds. Norway wasn't what British economist Thomas Robert Malthus expected to see when he arrived there in 1799. He'd anticipated finding poverty and squalor, but he was shocked to find that while Norway's ordinary residents didn't have everything found in advanced industrialized countries, they did appear healthier and more fed than their British counterparts. This baffled Malthus because Norway lacked the fundamentals of a thriving agricultural industry. Malthus had overlooked Norway's open economy, which was an important factor. In fact, let us tell you in detail just how good their economy has fared. Norway had one of the highest GDP per capita figures in the world in 2021 at $89,000. From fisheries to the oil industry, Norway's economy underwent a significant transformation over the previous 4 or 5 decades and was ranked 14th in terms of economic freedom in 2022. There's a number of factors that led to all that economic growth, and a huge part of it is also how the government invests in its people, which gives them a productive workforce. Oil discovery. They ranked as the 12th largest oil producer in the world, and the 3rd largest exporter of gas and the 5th largest exporter of oil. They began looking for oil in April 1965, and after numerous unsuccessful attempts, in 1969 oil was finally retrieved from the North Sea. They then became the nation with the highest oil production per citizen. The oil industry was starting to boom. There were thousands of new jobs, and the country transitioned from a fishing-based economy to an economy that'd bring in billions of euros with the help of oil. The Norwegian government wanted every Norwegian citizen, not only a private business, to benefit from the oil find, which is why the Norwegian Petroleum Directorate was established on June 14, 1972, by a decision of the country's parliament, along with Statoil, a state-owned oil firm. It granted Norway control and advantages over the money it'd make from its oil, as well as producing a fresh stream of funding for the government. Also, Norway is a rare country that avoided the oil curse, and there's several reasons for it, apart from the fact that this country is just surreal. Things always seem to work out. First is that oil was discovered much later. The country was already quite stable and doing well. Then, they ensured that their administration was autonomous, not corrupt, and highly specialized. After finding oil, Norway established the 10 Commandments of oil in just 2 years that highlighted the guidelines for how the country will use its oil resources for the good of its people. These commandments recognize the pervasiveness of the oil business and contain, among other rules, that it must not negatively affect other industries or the environment. This is in stark contrast to all other oil-rich countries that fumbled the bag too soon. Sovereign Wealth Fund. When oil prices fell in the 1980s, the economies of countries with abundant oil experienced a recession. At that period, Norway learned the most important lesson. When one commodity price controls an entire economy, the ups and downs in that price can cause the economy to become extremely unstable. Diversifying and stabilizing the economy was the answer. A sovereign wealth fund, commonly referred to as the Government Pension Fund of Norway, was founded by the government in 1995 and supported with oil profits. They're aware that oil will eventually run out, so if they want to continue to be richer over time, they must stabilize their economy and get rid of their reliance on oil. The stock market and international financial markets are where this state-owned investment company makes its investments, and with $1.36 trillion in assets, Norway's sovereign wealth fund is currently the biggest in the world. Dugnad. Now, you can't believe a winning country without the people of that country adding value to it. Keep in mind, this is a huge country with a tiny population, so it worked in their favor. Despite its rapid population growth as compared to before, Norway still has a population of only about 5 million people compared to the 340 million Americans, 64 million Britons, and 9.5 million Swedes. Cooperation and trust have always been a major part of the country's social fabric. Even today, the word Dugnad, which means banding together for the common good, has a specific meaning in Norwegian. It signifies giving of your labor for the good of all. The cooperative groups were largely about this. Cooperative insurance plans frequently relied on voluntarily provided free labor. In Norway, Dugnad was a common method for building hydropower plants. Together with financing from the local government and the state, a community would provide labor to help build a power station. It was intended that by contributing, you and your village would gain access to electricity. With cooperatives and Dugnad, decisions were made more in line with the needs of the community than with the potential for profit that a capitalist saw. Despite having enormous oil and gas reserves, Norwegian taxpayers are still used to paying big bucks, and they're ready to pay high taxes in exchange for all the benefits, such as the free high-quality education system that's helped Norway become one of the world's most educated nations. That's not all. Taxpayers also enjoy free health care. Any medical care above a certain amount is provided free of charge and is funded by the Norwegian government. In 2021, that sum was $264. A success story. Without a doubt, Norway is one of the most beautiful places on Earth. It has a rich culture, great history, beautiful cities, and amazing people. Also, it boasts a high standard of living and advanced human development. You'll adore the fascinating fusion of modern and antique architecture in Oslo, the capital of Norway, as well as the urban commotion. It's now powered by oil and gas exports, which not only makes it incredibly efficient and reliable, but also ensures that they continue to be one of the richest nations for a very long time. The country also benefits significantly from some of their largest reserves of fresh water, minerals, lumber, seafood, and hydropower. Speaking about hydropower, around 90% of Norway's electricity is produced by it, and the nation depends on having fully stocked reservoirs throughout the winter months when demand is at its highest. The riches and production of Norway have also allowed for free provision of health care for its citizens, and there are many jobs in the country, especially in the telecommunications and technology sectors. Because of all this, Norway has a very low poverty rate and a very high wage rate. And get this, Norway has incredibly low unemployment rates as compared to other nations, which contributes to its high level of productivity. We showed you how petroleum-related activities in the country have been a major driver of Norway's economic expansion and have funded a sizable portion of the welfare state over the past 40 years. Government statistics show that the sector has contributed more than 12,000 billion in current value. It's hard to imagine that Norway once lacked a higher education system. Universities didn't even exist. And yet, they had an excellent average level of education despite not having Oxford or Cambridge. In fact, Scandinavian countries introduced compulsory public education 150 years before the majority of other European countries. You can still observe this in Norway today, that in terms of big Ivy League universities and highly specialized talents, Norway is average. Instead, what sticks out is how highly skilled the ordinary person is and how the country provides every citizen with the opportunity to grow. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.